All right, I'm joined by my colleague Alex Sear to break down Eliud Kipchoge's performance at the 2025 London Marathon. A curious and fascinating run by Mr. Kipchoge. He finished in sixth place, Alex, in 2:05:25 and was sort of in it right up until about the 20-mile mark. And we'll break down the performance in a little bit of detail in a second. And I think we've got to ask the big looming question every time Eliud Kipchoge now runs a marathon or starts a marathon at least. And that question is Eliud Kipchoge still the greatest marathon runner of all time? And then, of course, how does each race, and this one in particular, affect his legacy? We'll get to that in just one second. But let's look at it very quickly. Eliud Kipchoge is 40 years old. He turns 41 on November 5th. He's a Scorpio, Alex.
He's a Scorpio.
He's so a Scorpio.
How do you know this?
Scorpios are, and this is the definition of a Scorpio I just pulled from the internet: stubbornness, passion, mystery, and resilience.
Oh boy.
That is Eliud Kipchoge in a nutshell right there.
I fear for our retention rate right now. Please stay with us. We're going to talk about running soon.
Stay with us. We're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to get into it right now. Let's start off here by grading his performance. Alex, how do you grade his performance? A plus, obviously being not what we saw on Sunday. A plus would be world record, sub 2 hour marathon, Eliud Kipchoge at the apex of his powers, and an F would probably be what Kipchoge would have given himself for the Paris Olympics last year when he DNF'd.
This is my ranking and not what we think his ranking would be for that race or his grading.
Let's start with your ranking.
With my own. So I'm going B minus, which I suspect Kipchoge would consider generous. I think he's probably rating himself lower because I think he still sees himself as a killer. And I think I'm seeing him as an increasing number of people are starting to see him. And that's as a phenomenal runner, yes, but one who is near the end of his career. And if you can pop at 2:05 after many years of winning majors, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's a B minus for me.
Yeah, I would say I put it somewhere around a B minus as well. I'd probably be a little bit more generous than you because he was in it almost all the way to the end. And there were even moments where it just kind of felt like we got into a time machine and we were back like pre-pandemic 2019. Everyone is very deferential to Kipchoge. He's like right in the pocket. Even at the 15K, he's actually the first athlete across the mat for the 15K split. He was leading, technically speaking. There was a group of about 10 athletes all the way up until about 30K. And he was leading the London Marathon in 2025 through 15K. And it just kind of felt like it was like the old guys still got it. The magic was still there. Mm-hmm. And I would say that another really interesting element of his performance is that, yes, so there was a big break right after 30K. They go through a bottle station as a group of 10 athletes. They don't have a pacer anymore. And out of the bottle station strategically, and our colleague Jesse Carveth, who was there in London covering it, was incensed with rage and thought it was poor sportsmanship for Kenyan Sebastian Sawe to surge out of the bottle station and leave everyone in his dust. He threw down a 4:18 mile and no one responded really. It stretched the entire group out all of a sudden into single file. And Jacob Kiplimo, the young debutant on the marathon, started chasing him. And the very first casualty of that big move was Eliud Kipchoge. He fell right off the bat, grabbed his little squeeze bottle of Morton and was kind of sucking away at it and then sort of regrouped. And I will give him the B for this reason, Alex. He went through the 35K split in 8th place, settled down. By 40K, he moved up one spot, was in 7th. Then he crossed the finish line, grabbed one more spot and was 6th. So he was able to like pull himself back together again, refocus his race and didn't run too badly. It was in the end, a positive split of 2 minutes and 23 seconds, which he has positive split races in the past. Even at his apex, he's positive split world record performances. But not to that degree. That's a pretty big positive split. So I would say let's give him a B at this stage. It's sort of all relative. What do you think he would give him? What I don't know if Eliud Kipchoge would ever grade any performance. Like I think he's like the Zen master, right? It's like the world record, a DNF. It's kind of like it's all just grains of sand blowing away in time. But like, what do you think? What do you think he's grading this performance himself? He's writing in his little book.
Yeah, he's beyond the letters, right? I'd say he's probably giving himself a C or a D because
Oh,
the impression I had when we spoke with the physiologist who follows him very closely, Dr. Andy Jones, not long ago, his error was that Kipchoge was in it to win it. And I mean, Kipchoge
yeah,
showed that himself. You don't lead a race through 15K if you don't expect to win it, especially if you've been there so many times before and you've won so many majors, including London 4 times. I don't think he would have entered London if he didn't think he could win. So a sixth place finish when you're expecting gold is kind of a failure. So I'd say he's probably giving himself even as bad as a D.
so yeah, to that, yeah, I think he's probably a little bit more kind. He's a little kinder to himself at this stage. I hope. The guy's 40 years old. Everything sort of has to be put into that through that perspective. Although at the same time, you're right. It's like he's more Tom Brady than he is retiring 40-year-old. It's very clear. You know, he came into London, and the sense we got. Jones mentioned to us when we were talking to him in Boston for our live show. He said Kipchoge thinks he can win this race, which means that he still has that like top level compete. He's still got, as they say, he's still got that dog in him. So yeah, maybe he gives himself like a C to be kind to himself because you know he is the man who espouses the idea that there is power in positive thinking, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he puts a C with a smile on his face.
Maybe. What I'm still trying to gauge from Kipchoge, and it's very difficult because either he's super well media trained or he's just born the philosopher king. I still don't really know. Is that he is not he's not showing the regular signs of another, say, 40-year-old athlete or later career athlete who's transitioning from killer instinct to I'm just happy that I'm still here. And
That's right.
some of the all-time greats, most of the all-time greats who choose not to retire early go through that phase. And to me, that's usually signaled by, you know, more smiles in interviews and maybe starting to branch out in other parts of the sport or starting to become involved in a company somehow, maybe in product marketing or something else, and you're starting to see the athlete's way out. With Kipchoge, there's no external indicator of that. So I don't think he sees himself as having reached that part of his career. He's not the just happy to be here guy yet at all. So I think he's been really critical. I think he would have been critical about his performance.
He didn't show up in London like flogging some crypto venture. Yeah, no, he's still pretty focused.
Yeah,
Although at
no.
the same time, he does do things in the off season. Like earlier this year, he did do a tour of the Asia Pacific area and ran a 10K in Thailand in order to promote running in Thailand. And I see NN
Mm,
running team, his squad they're now proudly wearing a Thai badge as the Thailand is like one of the Thailand, I guess probably the Thailand tourism department is one of the major sponsors of NN running team from what I can see now. So we're starting to see little bits of that, but
tiny, tiny signs.
he's not all in yet. He's not like, this isn't multiple Super Bowl ads during the Super Bowl type scenario for Eliud Kipchoge yet. So London Marathon, he's run it 6 times now. I think the good news is this was not his worst London Marathon. 2020 was by far his worst London Marathon performance. 2015, 18, 19, and in 2016. I didn't do that in order. He won the race. So he's won the race 4 times, and then he came eighth in 2020 and 206.49. And one of the real first signs that Kipchoge was starting to slip a little bit. And then in 2025, he's finished in sixth. So all things considered, not a bad performance for him. I'll hit you with the big question right now. We're not going to bury it to the end. Big
Okay.
question right now. I almost feel silly asking you this, but I still feel like we need to ask this question after Kipchoge runs every major marathon. Is Eliud Kipchoge still the marathoning GOAT?
Yes,
Okay, good.
he is. He is. He is. And I think the argument against Kipchoge, the one that I hear often, is that if he sticks around long enough, he'll eventually see himself becoming the villain. It's like the old trope, right? He'll see
That's right.
himself fading to sixth, to eighth, to 10th, to DNF here and there, and then people will remember those bad finishes. And I don't think that's true. And even if it's true for some people, I don't think it's right. Legacy is a weird thing because sometimes the best thing you can do for your legacy is leave early, and oftentimes it's not your choice. Who's got the most untouchable legacy in distance running? It's Steve Prefontaine, and if there is a competitor, it's Kelvin Kiptum.
Yes.
And then it just becomes so dark because you give these people a huge legacy because they left too soon. What happens with people on the other side of the spectrum who try to stay for much longer and they don't have such an illustrious end to their careers because they're older and they're still trying things? Then some people think that that would tarnish their legacy. I don't think so. I think you take an athlete's best years whenever they were in the career, and that's what you remember. So I I don't think anything Kipchoge does moving forward will affect his status as the GOAT. The only way he no longer is the GOAT is if someone wins more important marathons in such a short period of time as he did. And I truly don't see that happening anytime soon.
So here's a snapshot of his career that just puts this all into, clear relief. He has run 21 official marathons from 2013 until this year, 2025. So that's a nice 12-year run he's got in the marathoning game. He only does marathons. He's, of course, got the 2 unofficial performances where he tried to and then did break 2 hours in the marathon. We're not counting those. Of the official races, he has won 15 of them. He has podiumed 17 times, and he set the world record on 2 different occasions in 2018 and 2022 in Berlin. So his overall average, like his marathon average in official races, is 2:04:35. That's pretty darn good
across more than 20 marathons.
That's right, and 12 years, and some of that was pre-super shoe as well, which is a thing. And then his London average, interestingly enough, obviously a little bit faster, 2:04:18, because he's got those 4 wins, and London's a pretty quick course. So I would say that this London performance is a net positive, is as additive to his legacy. And the reason why I would say that is because I see this almost as a bridge race for him. Let's go through like the last 2 years here. 2023 Boston Marathon, his first and only Boston Marathon. Not sure he's ever going to show up on Boylston Street again. He runs 2:09:23. Third time he's ever lost a marathon. So only the third time ever he's not won the race. And it's by far his slowest marathon performance in his career. And it's also a 6th place finish. It was I would say, a pretty humbling experience for the guy. Then he follows that up in September of 2023, winning Berlin in 2:02:42, sort of getting his groove back. 2024, another setback. Tokyo, 10th place. We covered that. 2:06:50. 4th time he doesn't win a marathon in his career, and it's his lowest finishing place in his career as well. And then the real disaster is the Paris Olympics last summer, where he DNFs, and it just sort of felt like the wheels were coming off, and there was a lot of questions about whether or not this guy was done, whether his competitive career was finished, and that he would pivot to something else, being an ambassador for the sport, traveling the world, I don't know, ascending to some sort of godlike status. Sky was the limit for the guy, but the question was whether or not he could still compete at a high level. And 2025, he comes back and he runs London. And I think that it's a bridge for him. It's a bridge to a future. He's already announced that he's running the Sydney Marathon on August 31st. So he's got his next race lined up. And Sydney, of course, Alex, will be a world marathon major for the first time this year. And Kipchoge, we know, is an ambassador for the world marathon majors. He has run all of them with the exception of New York. And now Sydney, which he will run. Question for you here. Do you think he can win the Sydney Marathon at the end of this summer?
Depends who shows up. It depends who shows up. On a good year, he goes 2:04. On a good year, he almost replicates what he does in London and he wins. I would love to see that. I kind of have a feeling that the Sydney Marathon might not be that strong. It's going to be close to the World Championships this year in Tokyo, which might steal a chunk of talent. And also, athletes have their plans for it. I mean, now we have 4 major marathons in the fall, right? So that's going to divide the talent up. It's possible that we see a situation where it's Kipchoge and a bunch of 206 guys, and he just slaps the field around and wins. I also wonder if this is step one of a 2 major fall for the Kipper, and he
Ooh.
closes off the 7 majors by the end of 2025, because you can, in theory, double up and do Sydney and then recoup, reset for 3 months, and then come back and do New York.
Now, Sydney, interestingly enough, pretty hilly course, pretty challenging course. If you were to sort of rank the difficulty level of the World Marathon major courses, Sydney is it's kind of right behind Boston and New York, I would say. It's definitely not flat and fast, that's for sure. You got to go up and over that beautiful bridge, and it's pretty challenging. And the course record, interestingly enough, I think it's going to get knocked back to 207.03 because the guy who ran last year and set the course record in 206.18, Bremen Kipchoge, he got popped for doping a couple of months ago. We reported on that a couple of months ago. So he's provisionally suspended, and if that suspension goes through, I would assume that course record and that win for him will be clawed back. So we'll probably see that course record, which already wasn't super fast, kind of pulled back a little bit further. It's an interesting scenario for Kipchoge. Keep an eye out on what that starting elite field list is when they announce it. Really curious to see who they put him up against, who they pit him up against, because it could see a little bit of a soft field. Now, all that said, it's not a Nike event. Kipchoge's a Nike athlete. It's an ASICS event, I believe. So we'll see how kind they are to Mr. Kipchoge in Australia in late August. And that's a really interesting question about New York. New York's November, right around his birthday, actually. I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, November 3rd this year. And in theory, he could do both races, although that would be pretty hard on his body. I will throw this away right now because obviously the timing doesn't work, but it's a curious question about whether or not someone like Kipchoge at this stage in his career should do a world championship. It's going to be in Tokyo at the end of the summertime, and it just doesn't line up, obviously, with his commitments to run the Sydney Marathon. So, and I don't even know if he gets selected, Alex.
Well, I was
Sure.
going to say, I don't think he has one of the 3 spots on Team Kenya right now, right?
No.
Alexander Munyao has had Kipchoge's number in the last 2 years anyway, and Sawe's looking very fit. And then even Tim Kiplangat is now a 202 runner. So, and these are just 3 athletes. So
Yes.
I would be, I think Kipper would be hard pressed to make the team. Then you fall into like some weird political things. If Kipchoge would be chosen over one of those 3 athletes, you have to wonder, okay, well, are you choosing him for what he's been doing lately, or are you choosing him for status? And maybe if I'm Kipchoge, I don't want to test my luck, and I don't want to get involved in something like that. If I'm Kipchoge, maybe I want to go on the other side of the world, set what seems like it might be a soft record if no one else shows up, get my 6th out of 7 world major appearances, and then get a little bit closer to sailing off in the sunset.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I would say, I think Kipchoge kind of missed one figure in London, and that was Kenenisa Bekele. His we call him a fellow goat. Can there be more than one goat? It feels
Fellow
like
goat.
they're
Kindred
I feel like
spirits. Let's call them
they are
kindred
definitely.
spirits.
Yeah, and we never really saw them go fully toe to toe in a marathon in the way that we had always hoped and dreamed. And Bekele had an incredible run here in London last year, where he set the Masters, the over 40 plus world record at 204.15. And I kind of felt like in the first half of the race this year that was on the table for Kipchoge. Now, Bekele was supposed to run in this race as well, and I just kind of feel like the Kipper was probably missing Kenny next to him there to battle it out in the last 10K and to give that race a little bit more depth and meaning for him. And it's kind of a shame that he wasn't in this race, because that would have created this really interesting B plot, more than just, okay, Kipchoge just kind of held on, clawed back a couple of spots, and didn't have a terrible day at the office. I think it would have made for like an incredible performance in the last 10 kilometers of the race.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we had like 5 more years of Kipper versus Kenny? And it's just like the 40-something-year-old dudes going at it twice a year? I think that
I
would be awesome.
I'd sign up for that. I want that. That we could get that actually. It's
Mm.
very possible, right? Especially the way these two guys are running. Although Bekele obviously had some injury issues going into London, so he got scratched.
Mm.
So, tough question for you here before we close this one out. Will Eliud Kipchoge win another World Marathon Major? Yes or no?
Yes. And if so, it's Sydney. I think he's going to try to win New York, but I think that's going to be too hard for him. What do you think?
Oof. I don't know. I think you might be right. I'm starting to get that sense that like everyone loves a storybook ending, right? Everyone loves a great narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's an opportunity with Sydney as the being a World Marathon Major for the first time, and the World Marathon Majors being a series that is headlined by Kipchoge as their major ambassador, and he's made huge inroads into the Asia Pacific region. And Sydney historically hasn't had super deep elite fields and kind of has a soft course record. And yes, it's kind of hard, but now it's a World Marathon Major, and it's looking to make a statement on the global running landscape. I feel like teeing up a race for Eliud Kipchoge to win feels like a great storybook, maybe not storybook ending, but a great story, a great chapter in 21st century distance running, and something that we should definitely keep an eye on for sure.
But
Yeah,
even at my young age, Michael, I know how naive it is to expect an athlete to have a storybook ending. Name me one who finished on top. Name me one who ended right when it was time. I don't think
even
that
Tom Brady
happens.
couldn't do it. Even Tom Brady had
No.
like one final losing season where they didn't make the playoffs, and it forced a divorce with his wife. So, you know, I don't
Thank
wish
God
that on
Caitlin's not
Eliud
on this
Kipchoge.
podcast.
Yes.
Caitlin, don't
Guys.
listen to this one. No, but that's
Yeah.
it. Most athletes finish at the bottom. They're hungry for more, and they try until they've passed their prime. That's like the weird, sad reality of elite athletics. But I would love that for Kipchoge. And I think if there's someone who can pull it off, it's him, because he has it. He has the magical touch. So,
Okay, final question for you. Okay, so we know he's running Sydney this year. We know that the New York City Marathon is dangling probably next year, but possibly this year. But certainly within the next 18 months, Eliud Kipchoge is going to come to New York. He has to. He's got. How else is he going to get that gigantic dinner plate medal from World Marathon Majors? Right? He said he wants to finish all of them,
yep.
And that seems to be a really important thing to him. So we've got those two things on the calendar within either this calendar year or within the next 18 months. But beyond that, where do you see Eliud Kipchoge and his career and his legacy going beyond that?
I think Nike holds on to him very tightly.
Yeah.
I hope this is coming from my own love of running. I want to see him have Jordan status. I want to see him having Tiger Woods status. I want to see him having LeBron status. And I think he deserves it.
Well,
and
somebody at Nike has told me that effectively he already has that status. A high up executive at Nike told me a while ago that he is on the same echelon as those athletes. He's a pillar athlete for Nike. Although you're making a good point that like maybe they feel that way internally, but it doesn't entirely seem that way all the time externally.
Well, it has to translate, right? And I think you can only say that someone has Jordan status after they retire. Jordan status is what it is because people still talk about him and people still wear his shoes. I'd love to see Kipchoge remain an icon long after he's retired. And I have a bit of skepticism because it even already seems that, like, now that he's not winning major marathons every 3 months, we're not talking about him so much. People aren't thinking about him so much. It's kind of sad to me. But I hope that Nike uses its marketing machine and keeps him close and keeps him present, because he's been a gift to the sport. You don't say that about everybody. He's been maybe certainly the most marking and important distance running athlete of our generation and maybe generations before. And so I want to keep seeing a lot of him. I hope he stays involved. And the weird thing is, it doesn't seem like it's that much part of his nature, right? We were talking about this before the podcast. He leads this very Spartan lifestyle. He likes things quiet. He likes things simple. It might even be his wish to retire off into the sunset and have no one really know where he is. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Nike, his obviously longtime partner and sponsor, does in helping manage his legacy and his career, particularly if and when he decides that he's not going to stay at the sort of top competitive level. I could see him just sort of doing like a crazy legacy tour. Like our colleague Jesse said that, he walks into the press room after the race, still in the singlet, still with the bib on, and the super shoes on. He walks in and talks to the reporters in the room, including Jesse. And she's like, there's an aura with this guy. This guy has a presence. Everyone's kind of in awe of him. Everyone gathers around. People quiet down. They lean in. They want to listen to this guy. He has like a magnetic quality that is, extremely important and valuable and profound in the sport. And it's something that obviously Nike and Mr. Kipchoge himself surely would, do well to continue leveraging that beyond his apex competitor days. Yeah, curious to see where all of this goes. Curious to see what 2026 and 2027 look like for Eliud Kipchoge. It's like a lot of big unknowns right now. But certainly he's not going anywhere anytime soon after the London performance. I think we can agree on that this was a nice bridge performance for him into the fall. And I'm pretty excited to see how he does in Sydney. And we'll definitely be covering that. And so keep an eye on our channel to get more insights on Kipchoge from two self-professed Kipchogeologists. All right, Alex. Thanks very much.
Till next time.